Personally, I hate when there are long breaks on the channel. I always try to stay within at least those few days, but we have a really good reason for this one. We're getting divorced.
What? Wow, I just learned this information.
No, okay.
Well, you know, if there's any Polish guys available, I really liked this one, so...
It's a joke. It's a joke, and this is to dissolve the heavy atmosphere that's...
So you're saying, like, you say something
that's coming
really bad at first, then the next news just
to
sounds like...
To make the next thing look less serious, because it's serious. I think we should just start from the beginning. On Saturday, this past Saturday, the 7th, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just say we had a very busy day planned.
Yes.
It was going to be the busiest day of the week for us because we were going
supposed to shoot the Northeast Christmas Parade.
Mm-hmm.
Then we were going to one party, and then we were going to a second party.
Yes.
On top of regular processing stuff, things being lined up and all that. So it was morning, like around 9:30 a.m. I guess. We're sleeping still, and at some point Blondie says to me, "What's that noise?" Hearing like some popping noise, as you described it.
Yes, because in our house, our the wall to our bedroom is to the kitchen, which is where our trash can is, and sometimes Whisper will like nudge the trash can and try to get into it while she's hungry. And I said, "David, I think Whisper's trying to get into the trash can," and you said, "No, I already fed her." So
I fed her earlier that morning, and I knew she would be unlikely to do that because she had a big meal. So I'm like, no, this must be something else. And I said, it sounds to me like it's coming from the outside. And you said, well, then check it out. And I said, it's probably just neighbors doing something. But I did get up and pull the curtain off the doors to our bedroom. And at that point, I saw it.
And he goes, "Holy shit!"
This is not exactly what I saw, but this is what was happening a few minutes later. The moment we saw it, the fire was already there, very serious, but you could still see almost the entire shed standing there. The walls were there, the roof was there, the windows, you could still see the siding and everything.
All down.
So at that point, basically, we started running to the living room. I remember you just screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God." Mm-hmm. And I guess you went to the porch first to just like look at it and to see how bad it was.
I don't remember. And then I just remember running to the front of the house and trying to hook the hose up.
Yes.
So that I could put the fire
I started
out.
Calling 911. I remember you running back from behind the house with the hose. And at this point, I remember thinking, this is not going to help. The fire was way too big at this point. Although, you know,
I felt like
honorable attempt.
When I first went to the front, like if I could have just... If the hose had been long enough, it wasn't long enough. If I could have just gone to the hose when I first saw it and run out there, I think possibly, like there's a 10% chance I could have stopped it.
Difference.
Yeah, but this thing, I went to the front of the house, had to turn the water on, had to drag the hose out, and I told you about this on the way here. My friend Rob, who's a fire marshal, said that fire intensifies 3 times every 60 seconds.
I don't believe you could have stopped it.
Yeah, and so I feel like,
Here's why. Because when I came out of the house, which basically I was still on the 911 call, I only, I guess, gave the address and said, send firemen immediately, or something like that. I know the 911 dispatcher was trying to calmed me down and said
she was saying do a lot of stuff.
Stop yelling and asking me questions whether we're in danger, and I was like, yes, we're in danger, because at that point I was getting in front of the house with one of the dogs, and I realized we have to leave because it was so hot. You guys we'll show you what happened to the siding on the house. The shed was at least 50 feet away from the house, maybe more.
You should actually measure it.
We can measure it. It's at least 50, maybe more, maybe like even 70. But it was so hot that the siding melted on the house. So you guys can imagine what the temperature was.
But also there was so much stuff in that shed that we didn't know. Like there was a lawnmower, there was a weed eater, and who knows?
Some of
there
those
were
things
propane
had
tanks.
gasoline in them.
There were 2 propane tanks right by it.
Which didn't explode, by the way. They got all smoked, but they didn't explode, thankfully. But there was a lot of flammable stuff, basically.
The funny thing is, David had,
Yeah, you
there
can
was
see
a
it burning right
5-gallon
there.
gas tank that David had left out next to this blue tarp, kind of.
Because it's used for the lawnmower, for the weed eater, for
Yeah.
the pressure washer. It's a lot of devices that use it.
So I had been annoyed that David hadn't put this gas tank away, and I kept thinking, I asked you to put it away a few times, and then one day, recently, like maybe even this week, I said to myself, I'm just going to put it away myself. And now I'm so glad that you didn't put that in that shed, because if that gas tank was in there with gallons of gas,
I don't know what a 5-gallon gas tank explosion looks like, but I can imagine it's pretty bad, and it would definitely make the whole thing way worse. I felt when I came out and I felt like how hot it was, I felt that we were in serious danger, and I started thinking, we really have to get out of the house immediately. So I started pulling the dogs out. I guess the dogs were really weird. Like Whisper didn't want to go at all. She was just scared, and she was actually trying to get away from you.
I was like laying
and
down on
go
top of her.
Back sort of towards the fire.
I wasn't laying on top of her, but I was like really having to sit
Yeah.
down on the ground and hold her because she kept trying to run back away. And again, we didn't know if any of that stuff was going to explode. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this makes me emotional just thinking about what if she ran to that?
I know.
And
Blue Dog just came out of the house. She always walks around without a leash because she never really goes anywhere away from us. So she kind of came out of the house, and she's just standing there in this like blistering crazy heat that I can feel on my face and my entire body. I mean, it was so hot it melted the siding on the house, and I was closer to it at this point. And she's just like looking at me. She's like, "What are we doing today?" I'm like, "Dog, don't you have any instincts? Like, you're an animal. You're supposed to know it's dangerous. Get the hell out of
But
here."
you know what's funny? You got them in the Jeep, and I didn't see it like this because I just sat in the Jeep. I didn't even want to watch this happening. And they were being so good because you know how in the house they bark and
Yeah.
run around, and Murray was laying down in the back of the Jeep and Violet was laying in the front seat, and they were not paying attention to all these new people around. They weren't paying attention to the fire engines. I feel like they did eventually register that something serious was going
maybe.
on.
I don't know how much time exactly passed from the moment we saw the fire for the first time to the moment, we got the dogs to the other side of the house into the Jeep, and you sat in the Jeep, and then that's when I came around. But during that time, the whole thing was basically gone. So it was literally a few minutes, no longer than that. And again, like the sheer temperature of it was just sort of igniting everything around it.
Wow, look at how look at this.
I know. That's what exactly
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. Like there was basically a ring of fire, spreading from the very shed,
I
burning
mean,
everything
We
on
did
its way.
have a lot of leaves in the yard, but
Yes,
also
it's the end of fall, so there
Yeah.
was a lot of, dry stuff in the yard.
and
but
also the water had just like within that month come up, and you have been working. You've cleaned about a quarter of it, but then there's like a whole bunch of this stuff that came up from the water, twigs and driftwood that you had just every now and then.
the bottom line is it could have been a lot worse. I feel like the house was in serious danger. The firemen showed up very quickly, and of course they took care of it.
And actually, that because of that Christmas parade, a lot of the town was shut down. And
Yes.
our friends were telling us that when they found out it was our fire, they were like, "That was you?" They
Yeah.
thought that the fire engines were there for the parade.
Right, and they were annoyed that they were making so much noise. They were thinking like they could have.
They're really overdoing this.
Yes, they could tone it down a little bit. They don't have to be blasting their horns,
Yeah.
so freaking loud. But then it turned out they were responding, and something was happening in our yard. But my takeaway from this is, first of all, we were pretty lucky because it could have been a lot worse. Second of all, now I realize how insane fire like this is and how people die in fires because you literally have seconds to get out. When this starts happening and you're lucky enough to realize your house is on fire, the temperature is insane. It melted everything, and it melted the entire lawnmower. There's like nothing left in the shed.
I feel like
And the temperature is insane, and the speed with which the fire moves is insane, because the whole thing was gone in like minutes.
I feel like experiences in life, the more experiences you have in the life, the more understanding you have about the world. And I thought I understood fire. I mean, just because everybody's taught stop, drop, and roll, and keep flammable things away, and, you know, typical fire safety things. But I never realized until this moment just how scary and dangerous it, and quickly. That's the key word that you're saying here too. It happened so quickly to us. It was like, I thought I could come out there with that hose,
there
and
was
then
barely time to react and do anything.
And if this was in our house, I mean, so
we'd be lucky if we got out.
I guess, I mean, thanks to this, we fully realized how extremely quickly this happens, how dangerous it is, and how people
have seconds to get out.
Yeah.
Like literally seconds. Anyway, we wanted to share this crazy experience with you guys. Sort of partially as an explanation of why we weren't here. We weren't posting for longer than normally. And partially, I don't know if it can even be used as a warning. The only warning coming from this is, you know, take every possible step you can to be prepared for something like this, or to prevent it, because we have no idea how this happened.
I guess what we're saying is, I wish I had seen a video like this, and didn't just kind of ignore it and move on with our life, and instead have taken extra steps to do whatever we possibly could to help ourselves when this kind of a thing happens. Because just like everything, like me being diagnosed with breast cancer, you see other people going through these things and you think, oh yeah, but that's not going to happen to me.
It's rare. It's such a low chance this ever happens to me. And one day you wake up into this insane fire in your yard, and you're really happy you survived it.
And it is a low chance. It might be a low chance. I don't know what the actual statistics are, but at the end of the day, you might as well have an extra fire extinguisher. You might as well. It's not hurting anything, and it can only help. I wish we realized that we're not immune to this kind of a thing.
So in the end, as horrible of an experience as this was, we are still here. We're still alive. We survived. We weren't hurt, which is the most important. Our dogs weren't hurt. The cleanup will take months. The whole yard smells like burnt plastic and rubber now, and this smell, I feel like, is not going away anytime soon. So this puts that flooding that happened on Halloween in a whole new light. I wish that was our biggest problem right now.
I look at life as the more experiences you have, the more understanding you have, and I feel that we really learned something. I mean, didn't learn anything, we just learned that I wish we had not gone through this, but now I can completely relate to other people, and how horrible if that had been our house. Like, think of all the people whose houses have burned down and they didn't get a lesson on fire safety from looking at a shed burning. They got a lesson on fire safety from losing everything. And like pets or family members, I mean, this could have been so much worse.
Yeah.
So if we had to learn this lesson, at least it was from a shed and not from our house. Or the dogs, something happening when we were gone. I mean...
Oh, I don't even want to think about that.
So that, to me, is the positive thing. Just, I think that the best way to learn lessons...
I feel like, again, we just brushed against something really horrible, and miraculously we came out unscathed.
I feel that...
What's that word?
The best way to learn from experiences is... I mean, the best way to learn lessons is from your own experience. And I'm thankful that we learned this lesson in a less devastating way than it could have been.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back with a much happier video soon. Now it's almost Christmas time. We'll see you before then. Take care and stay away from fire.